All right, ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to do is try something a little bit different for today's lesson. I want to use this video, let you guys take notes as you watch this video about Rome's legendary origins. We'll just do Rome's legendary origins this time. So we're going to be talking about Aeneas. We're also going to be talking about Romulus and Remus and Rome's early kings. Okay, so to start this off, when you're taking notes, take notes about anything that dealt with dates, people, events, things like that. And I will try to highlight some things to take notes on while we go through this here. Okay, so kind of a precursor here for our legendary origins is one of the worst things about this time period that we're studying is that there are very little records of what actually happened way back then. We're talking about something in the 800 BC, so like 2,800 years ago. Unfortunately, we don't have many records, written records, things like that, of what actually happened. And in that case, what historians do is they try to use their best guess, educated guesses, things like that. Now, at the time, Rome was prospering, let's say around 50 BC, maybe even after the birth of Jesus. They were very interested in their beginnings also, just like us here in the United States. Another connection to how the U.S. and Rome are pretty similar is we're very concerned about our beginnings way back in the colonial times and the American Revolution and things like that. So were the Romans. And one of the things is, just like in America, we want to be proud of our history. We want to glorify our history and imagine that we had some kind of a glorious beginning and things like that. And that's exactly how the Romans were too. So another similarity for one of our essential questions. Now, one of the first stories that comes about is the story about Aeneas. The Romans believe that they can trace a lot of their beginnings back to Aeneas. Now, Aeneas was not from Italy. He was actually from Persia or Troy. The Greeks are going to go over there and there's going to be a war with Troy. If you can remember the Trojan horse and Achilles and things like that, that's where Aeneas comes about, and that's at about the 800 BC time period. What happens is Aeneas and his father and some followers, they flee Troy when the Greeks take over. They can't go to Greece because they've been at war with Greece, so they're going to travel around the Mediterranean Sea and things like that. Eventually, they end up in what we consider Italy today. Now, this story comes from the Aeneid, which was written by a Roman poet named Virgil. You should be writing these things down, the Aeneid, Virgil, Aeneas, and things like that. And this was around 20 BC. So this is like 800 years later. So, of course, the Aeneid is not a primary source. This is a secondary source, 800 years after the event. So a lot of this could be fictional, could be made up, but it makes for a good story. According to the story, Aeneas will reach Italy with his followers. They will meet up and join an alliance or a agreement with a group of people that are already in this Italian area called the Latins. And together they will fight other tribes that are in Italy. And Aeneas will marry a daughter of one of the Latin kings, and it kind of starts this area that we're going to be calling Rome. It's actually Aeneas's descendants, a couple of his descendants, that are going to be seen as the first rulers of Rome, and that is Romulus and Remus. So this is another story about the origins of Rome with Romulus and Remus. And this story gets a little bit more crazy than even the story in the Aeneid. This story about Romulus and Remus are these two boys that are born. They're twin brothers. When they are babies, they're actually put in a basket and thrown into the Tiber River. The plan is that, I don't know, maybe somebody will find them in the Tiber River, hopefully not thrown in there to die, things like that. But it's not humans that find them, it's a she-wolf. So a wolf, and that's why we have this image here of these two babies with a wolf. They are going to be rescued by this wolf from the Tiber River and raised by the she-wolf. Now, eventually, a shepherd will come around, see these two young kids with a wolf, and the shepherd will adopt the two boys. Later on, then, Romulus and Remus will go back to the spot where the she-wolf had rescued them, and they will mark that spot to create a new city, and that city becomes Rome on the Seven Hills. The story also goes that the reason why it's called Rome is that Romulus and Remus, when they're planning their city, will have an argument. Remus will make fun of one of the ideas of Romulus, and Romulus kills him. Now, that is something that in the legendary creation of Rome is significant because a lot of Rome is violence. There's a lot of violence throughout Rome's history. And one of the things in the legendary findings of it is that Rome is created out of violence, with one of the brothers killing another brother violently. And then that also leads to why it's called Rome and not Rheims or something like that. It is then around 753 BC that many historians see that Romulus is the first king of Rome. And so they kind of mark that as the beginning of the Roman times, 753 BC. Now, records indicate that there was a list of about 7 kings, Romulus and maybe 6 others. Not all of them were descendants of Romulus. The last 3 kings were Etruscans. Etruscans were a group of people that lived up here in this purple area north of what becomes Rome. These Etruscans will take over Rome, but they will contribute very highly to Rome. And that's where I want you to write down these things here that the kings contributed, Rome's early kings. The Etruscans are going to build huge temples for their religion. They're going to build sewers, which is a very good thing. The Romans are going to learn their alphabet and numbers. So, you know, the Roman, if you can think of Roman numerals, like the I for 1 and the IV would be 4, things like that. Now, what happens at the end of this time period, at about the 509 BC time period, is the last Roman king will appear. And he was an Etruscan. He was very cruel, though. He was a very cruel king. He punished the Romans very severely for just any trivial matter. It was unfair and things like that. He had many people killed, including those who were advising him. Well, eventually, a group of noblemen, nobles, so the upper class, wealthy of Rome, will rise up against him and they will kill him. He was overthrown in 509 BC, and then these nobles will choose to form a new government. And that's the next part when we start talking about the Roman Republic. Okay, so cause and effect, things like that. All right, so hopefully you got some good information written down for Rome's legendary origins, these 2 stories of the Aeneid and Romulus and Remus, and then these Rome's early kings. All right, have a good day, guys.